If I ever write a memoir, I think I'll call it The Man Who Folded His Socks. That's what she said, you know. Not during a fight. Not in the middle of some screaming match that ends with a slammed door and a broken vase. No, she said it while slicing chicken, calm, clean, and surgical. He's the kind of man who folds his socks. That's who I married. Now, you might think that's a compliment, a nod to my attention to detail or domestic dependability. But I could hear the scalpel in her voice. The way the word folds was curved just enough to make it sound like failure. I didn't respond, just kept chewing. Potatoes had never tasted so bland. That dinner, that godforsaken Tuesday night dinner, was the last quiet moment of my old life. She kept cutting. I kept pretending I didn't hear what I heard, and the refrigerator hummed between us like it was offering a soundtrack to a marriage unraveling in real time. I walked that night, left the house with no jacket, no wallet, just socks and pride, one of which I apparently folded too carefully. But here's what I've learned since. Silence isn't peace. It's preparation. Because while I was the man folding socks, she was already unfolding something else with someone else. And buddy, she thought I'd never know. That I'd never change. That I'd just keep setting out vitamins and fixing the garbage disposal, oblivious to the perfume that wasn't mine. She had no idea what I do when I'm quiet. But she was about to find out. The thing about gut feelings is they don't care about logic. They show up uninvited, like an old college roommate with terrible timing. That Friday morning, mine showed up with a vengeance. She said she had a marketing conference downtown. Full-day seminar, catered lunch, future-proof branding strategies, whatever that means. She even gave me the handout schedule. Laminated. But her eyes didn't match her words. And I'm not a detective, but I'm also not an idiot. So I followed her. And that's how I ended up in a hallway on the 8th floor of the Madison Hotel, holding a copy of her key card, swiped discreetly from her purse while she was in the shower, and listening to two muffled voices from behind the bathroom door. I didn't need to see. I heard everything. I think he still has no clue, the guy said, chuckling. Then came her voice, sharp, unrecognizable, almost gleeful. He folds his socks. That's who I married. I've been punched in the stomach before. Flag football in college. Some guy took the game a little too seriously. But this felt like my ribs folded in on themselves. I backed out. Quiet. No drama. I didn't need it. She wasn't just cheating with her body. She was cheating with her laughter, with her words, with the part of herself that used to be mine. And you know what I did? I left. But not before I did what any man who spent years being underestimated would do. I took photos. Of the room. Of the glasses. Of the lipstick that wasn't hers. Not for revenge. Not yet. For insurance. Because when you've been treated like wallpaper long enough, you learn to document the cracks in the paint. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I drove to a 24-hour diner 3 towns over, the kind where the coffee tastes like regret and the booths are upholstered in choices people can't take back. I sat in the corner, hoodie up, trying to look like just another tired man. And maybe I was. I watched the steam rise from my cup and thought about every time I'd ever forgiven a sigh, overlooked a distance, blamed myself for her disinterest. Then I opened my laptop. If she thought I folded socks, she forgot I also programmed routers, firewalled networks, and could trace IP addresses blindfolded. She got lazy, used the same passwords, synced the same cloud, kept location services on. By the time the sun came up, I knew more about her past month than she probably remembered herself. Hotel bookings, texts, voice memos, calendar entries coded as team dinners that were anything but. That morning, she texted me. Hope your Friday was good. I'm beat. Love you face blowing a kiss. Beat? Sure. You looked exhausted in that robe. I didn't reply. Instead, I started planning. Not revenge. Not yet. Something worse. The blueprint of my exit. Not the loud kind. No door slams. No accusations. Just absence. The kind of absence that echoes louder than any scream. The first thing I did was stop breathing around her. Not literally. But you'd be amazed how easy it is to fade out of someone's world without ever leaving the room. I became the background noise, the hum of the fridge, the creak of the floorboards, the breeze that rattled the blinds. Still there, just unnoticed. She came home Sunday night smelling like citrus and a stranger's cologne. I was on the couch, pretending to be asleep. She kissed the top of my head like a man she respected, like a dog she still appreciated for guarding the house. Long day, she sighed. toeing off her heels and heading straight to the bathroom. She didn't even check if I was awake. She didn't care. She had already filed me under harmless. That was her first mistake. By Monday, I had 3 things: a P.O. box under a fake name, a burner phone, and a storage unit the next town over. Small, climate-controlled, paid in cash. Every night after she fell asleep, I'd move one item, something small, something just mine, into a duffel bag in the garage. My favorite coffee mug, the old fleece hoodie she hated, a folder of paperwork I didn't trust her not to someday shred. By Thursday, one of the closets looked a little roomier. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did. But noticing means asking questions, and questions risk confrontation. That wasn't her style. She only dealt in passive dismissals and convenient amnesia. I tested her once. Moved her hairbrush a few inches to the left. She didn't blink. Moved my toiletries to the guest bathroom. No comment. She just kept humming around the house like a woman who believed she'd won something. What she didn't realize is that I wasn't leaving her. Not really. I was evicting myself from the story she'd rewritten without me. I kept doing the chores. I kept making coffee. I even left her favorite little sticky notes on the fridge. Don't forget your lunch. You left your charger again, smiling face with smiling eyes. She loved those. She used to call them proof I pay attention. Now, she probably thought they were reflex. They weren't. They were alibis. On Friday, she had another team dinner. I tracked her in real time. She turned her phone off halfway through, but I had installed a backup device in the lining of her trunk 3 weeks ago, before I knew what I was preparing for. I watched her location stop at a boutique hotel with a rooftop bar. Same one as last time. She didn't even bother switching it up. Bold. I could have gone. I could have walked in, ordered a drink, locked eyes with Julian across the room, and said something cinematic. But why ruin a performance halfway through its act? I waited until she was out the next morning to return to the hotel. Paid the concierge $50 to let me into the same room she'd used the night before. Told him I left my wallet. He didn't care. Money talks. Guilt listens. The room reeked of her perfume and the faint musk of smug adultery. I didn't touch anything. Just stood in the center of the room like I was surveying a crime scene. I took nothing. Left nothing. Except a single sticky note. Right there on the mirror where she'd reapply her lipstick before slipping back into my life. You left me first. Remember that. Back home, she walked in like nothing happened. Grocery bags in hand. Same loose bun. Same too casual smile. I got the pasta you like, she called from the kitchen. Did she know I knew? Maybe. Maybe not. I'd learned that people don't ignore truth because it's hidden. They ignore it because it's inconvenient. She asked me to help her carry in the water jugs from the car. I did. She asked what I wanted for dinner. I said, surprise me. She laughed, touched my arm. See? You're so easy. I smiled back. I was. I always had been. But not for much longer. By the end of that week, I'd cleared out 60% of what belonged to me. Digitally too. Transferred money. Canceled subscriptions. Changed passwords. Set up auto-redirects on every email account I could think of. I ghosted myself so thoroughly even I couldn't find me sometimes. She didn't notice. But the silence was growing teeth. That Friday, I caught her looking at me differently. Not lovingly. Not suspiciously. Just puzzled. Like she was trying to remember something she lost and didn't want to admit it was important. Did you do something different with your hair? She asked over dinner. I hadn't. But something had changed. I wasn't there anymore. Not really. She was talking to a man who was already halfway gone. A man who still pulled out her chair but no longer slept on the inside edge of the bed. A man who answered her questions but didn't ask his own. A man whose toothbrush was no longer in the bathroom cup. And that's what scared her. Not the cheating. Not the lies. Not the late-night texts or the haphazard excuses. No, it was my stillness. Because she expected a storm. She thrived on chaos. On confession and reaction and forgiveness. But I gave her none of that. I gave her silence. And in that silence, she finally heard what she'd done. They say absence makes the heart grow fonder. That's not true. Absence makes the truth louder. A week after I stopped being myself, she started looking for me. In the same way someone looks for their phone right after it's been stolen. Panicked. Not because it's gone, but because it wasn't supposed to leave. Hey, she said one evening, casually, like it wasn't loaded. You've been quiet lately. I shrugged. Just tired. And I was. Tired of being furniture. Tired of loving someone who measured affection by how much inconvenience she could pile on me without consequence. Tired of listening to her laugh at her phone like it was funnier than I'd ever been. She stared at me for a second longer than she meant to, then smiled. Maybe we should plan a trip. Just us. Clear the air. Sure. A trip. Just the two of us and the ghost of 100 lies. Sounds nice, I said. Let's talk about it later. We never did. That night, she checked my side of the closet. I heard the hangers clink softly. I was in the living room with the TV on mute, pretending to scroll my phone. I watched her out of the corner of my eye, saw the way her fingers lingered on the empty rack, like she wasn't sure if something was missing or if she was imagining it. She never said a word. But the next morning, she made breakfast. Eggs. Toast. Even cut up fruit like it was a holiday. Thought I'd surprise you, she said, sliding the plate toward me with too much cheer. You always say I don't do enough mornings. I hadn't said that in years. I'd stopped saying anything that made her uncomfortable. I ate it, thanked her, cleaned the plate myself. She watched me from the hallway, pretending to be on her phone. Later, I found the engagement ring. Not our engagement ring. A new one. Gold, oval cut, with a thin band, exactly like the one she pointed out on Instagram a month ago when we were just looking. It wasn't hidden. It was on the nightstand, next to her half-full wine glass and a copy of some bridal magazine. No note. No explanation. Just the kind of mistake you leave out when you want someone to find it but can't be bothered to lie anymore. I didn't touch it. Didn't move it. Didn't even breathe near it. But that night, I left my wedding band on the bathroom counter. Just sitting there, quiet, right next to her mascara wand and the curling iron she never unplugged. She saw it. I know she did. She didn't mention it. Just shut the bathroom door with a little more force than usual. Then she went to bed and turned her back to me like she had every night for 6 months. I didn't mind. I'd already packed what I needed. The next morning, the air was different. You know how a room feels right before a thunderstorm breaks? Charged. Tense. Like everything is about to come apart. She made coffee. The good kind. The imported stuff she always said was too expensive. I could smell it before I came downstairs. The smell of bribes and damage control. Want to go for a walk today? She asked, setting the mug down in front of me. It's nice out. I nodded. Took a sip. Said nothing. She sat across from me in her robe. No makeup. Hair messy. Trying to look casual, but her fingers kept tapping her mug like she was drumming up the courage to ask the thing she really wanted to ask. Finally, are we okay? I looked at her for the first time in days. Really looked. At the woman who used to trace my jawline when I talked about boring things. Who used to laugh at my terrible puns. Who once made me dinner with a candle and the mashed potatoes because we ran out of cake. She wasn't there anymore. And she knew I knew. Do you want the truth? I asked. She hesitated. Of course. I smiled, just barely. Then you'll have to wait a little longer. I want to make sure you're listening when I finally speak. And I meant it. Because the truth wasn't a sentence. It was a symphony. And I wasn't about to hum it under my breath. She looked stunned. Like someone had pulled the tablecloth out from under her place setting and left the dishes rattling but intact. I stood up and left the room. Quiet. Calm. Controlled. And that night, I slept in the guest room. For the first time in months, she noticed. She came to the door, didn't knock, just stood there. You're overreacting, she said softly. I didn't reply. You're being dramatic. Still nothing. Then, sharper. This is childish. I turned toward her, and for the first time, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch. I didn't try to win her over. Funny, I said. That's exactly what Julian said in the hotel bathroom. That shut her up. She stared at me, mouth slightly open. Not because she was caught. Not because she was ashamed. Because she never thought I'd say it. That I'd admit what I knew. That I'd stop pretending not to notice. And in that moment, for the first time, she looked afraid. Not of me, but of what came next. Because the ghost wasn't silent anymore. He was speaking. The day after I spoke the truth, the house got quieter, but not peaceful. She was trying to pretend it never happened. The way she always did. She clung to routine like it was a rope, but this time the rope was fraying. Badly. She made pancakes that morning. I don't even like pancakes. I came downstairs to the smell of maple syrup and desperation. Good sleep? She asked, cheerful like a sitcom character. She wore a yellow hoodie and no makeup. The same hoodie she wore the night we moved in together. I think she thought nostalgia might erase memory. Yeah, I said, sitting down. Guest bed's firm. Refreshing. Her smile twitched, Just barely. She handed me a plate. We ate in silence, the kind where silverware feels too loud and breathing too obvious. I thought we could drive to the lake later, she said eventually, voice light. You always used to like that. Used to. I nodded, but I didn't commit. I was done performing. She cleared the table quickly, like the silence might break her if it lasted another minute. I watched her stack dishes, her hands moving faster than necessary. Then she dropped a glass. It didn't shatter, just cracked at the base and rolled under the buffet. She stared at it for a beat too long. You okay? I asked. She looked at me like I'd just asked something offensive. Of course, she said. Why wouldn't I be? Because you dropped the glass. It slipped. I nodded. Yeah, things do. That was the moment it started. Not the end of our marriage. That happened a long time ago. This was the moment she realized it. Around noon, she came into the living room holding her phone like a live grenade. Did you talk to Julian? I didn't even blink. Why would I do that? He texted me. Said someone left a note on his car windshield. I turned the volume up on the TV. Some old Western was playing. Clint Eastwood squinting through desert dust. She walked closer. Was that you? I shrugged. You'd know better than me what his car looks like. Her nostrils flared. She hated not being in control of a conversation. I just want to know what you're planning, she said. Now that made me laugh. Not loudly. Not cruelly. Just enough for her to hear it echo off the walls she'd built. Planning? I repeated. You think I'm scheming? Well, aren't you? I turned to face her fully for the first time that day. I don't need to plan anything. You already detonated the marriage. I'm just stepping over the rubble. She didn't speak. Just stood there like a statue of regret, trying to hold her form while the world changed around her. That night, she didn't go to bed. I found her sitting on the back porch in her robe, barefoot, staring at the garden lights like they held answers. I opened the sliding door, didn't say a word, just stood there. Do you think I'm a bad person? She asked. I tilted my head. Do you care what I think? She didn't answer. That's the first honest question you've asked me in months, I added. Still no answer. Just her shoulders rising and falling. I was lonely, she said. You stopped noticing me. No, I said, walking out to stand beside her. You stopped being someone worth noticing. She flinched like I slapped her. But she didn't deny it. And I didn't apologize. Because I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was trying to leave her with the truth. Like a scar she'd never cover with makeup. 2 days later, she started asking real questions. Are you going to leave? I already did, I said. You just didn't see it. She followed me around the kitchen like an echo. We can fix this. Fix what? You think this is a crack in the drywall? This is foundation rot. You poured bleach on the roots and now you want flowers. I made a mistake. No, I corrected. You made a series of choices. Don't downgrade it into a mistake. You rehearsed the lies. You built the exits. You didn't trip. You leapt. She leaned on the counter, eyes glistening. You used to love me. I still do, I said. But love isn't a permission slip. She looked confused. She always did when consequence showed up without a warning shot. By the end of the week, she was unraveling. She baked. She organized the pantry. She called my mom. Desperation has a smell. It's somewhere between cinnamon and Windex. She left her phone face up on the counter, like a dog bringing a dead bird to the porch. I ignored it. Then she got clever. You're not innocent either, she said one evening. Never claimed to be. You've changed. No, I've revealed. That shut her up. Because deep down, she knew. I wasn't reacting. I was reverting. Returning to the version of me I had shelved so she could shine uninterrupted. And now that version was packing his things. Emotionally first. Legally next. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I didn't even raise my voice. But every word I spoke was a departure. And every silence after it was a goodbye. Because the part of me that used to cling? He died in a hotel hallway listening to a laugh that wasn't meant for him. And what she didn't know, what she couldn't know, is that the most dangerous man in the world isn't the one who yells. It's the one who listens and doesn't forget. By the start of the next week, she was saying my name like it owed her something. Elijah, she called out from upstairs, pretending not to panic. Can you come here a sec? She hadn't used my full name in years. It was always Eli, or Babe, or my personal favorite, Hey, can you take out the trash? I didn't respond right away. I let the silence build. You could feel it in the walls. Like the way the air tightens before a thunderstorm. Like the house was holding its breath. She came downstairs instead. What's going on? She asked. Not softly. Not kindly. like she was daring me to say the thing we both knew. Breakfast's getting cold, I replied, sipping my coffee. You haven't looked at me all morning. I shrugged. I've been looking at you for a decade. I guess I ran out. She crossed her arms. That defensive posture she always used when she was losing but didn't want to concede. I didn't rise to it. I just stood, rinsed my mug, and left her standing there with nothing to fight against. That was the worst part for her. No conflict. No chaos. Just distance. Me, gone without going anywhere. She had always been a sculptor of drama. But now her clay wasn't responding. That night, she came into the guest room uninvited. She sat at the foot of the bed like we were teenagers in a made-for-TV breakup. I know I hurt you, she said. I nodded, slow and deliberate. You did. I didn't think it would go this far. I tilted my head. Which part? The cheating? Or the silence afterward? She swallowed hard. I didn't mean for it to happen. You don't mean to knock over a glass. You don't accidentally take off your ring. Her voice cracked. Do you hate me? I exhaled through my nose. No. I just don't recognize you anymore. She wiped her face quickly. That desperate swipe women do when they're trying not to look vulnerable in front of the man they used to own. I want to fix this, she said. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You can't fix a burned house by repainting the ashes. 2 days later, I got a text from her sister. She's spiraling. What happened? I didn't respond. Then came the call from her best friend. I let it ring. Then, finally, a message from her mother. Yes, her mother, asking if I was okay. That's when I knew she had started to leak her version of the story. The one where I changed suddenly. The one where she wasn't sure what went wrong. Classic. She never liked consequences unless she could manage the PR. I sent her one message, finally. Just one sentence. You can't tell the truth after you've already sold the fiction. She didn't reply. But that night, I noticed something had shifted. She didn't hum while she cooked. She didn't scroll on her phone with that smug little smile. She didn't talk to herself while loading the dishwasher. The soundtrack of her confidence? Gone. Replaced by a quiet I had mastered weeks ago. I started clearing out the bank account the next morning. Not all of it. Just my part. The part one had earned. The part she didn't have a claim on because it lived in an account she never knew existed. Salary from freelance gigs she thought were just hobbies. She wanted a clean break. I'd give her one. Financially, emotionally, spiritually. I also changed the will. Removed her name from everything except the note she'd one day find in the safe. I left you with what you brought to this. Nothing. By the end of that week, she started staying late at work. Or at least that's what she claimed. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. Her perfume didn't smell like me anymore. It smelled like reinvention. I just made dinner for one. Ate at the table alone. Cleaned my plate. Brushed my teeth. Slept in the guest room. It was the happiest I'd felt in years. Because nothing's more liberating than watching someone scramble to rebuild a lie in a house you've already moved out of. Saturday morning, she cracked. She woke me up by throwing the guest room door open like she was storming a courtroom. I know you're planning something. I sat up slowly. I thought you liked surprises. Don't be smug, Eli. Why not? You used to love it when I smiled. Or was that just performative affection? She stepped forward, eyes red, hair tied back in a way that made her look younger than she was. Just say what you want from me. I stood, walked over to her. Not aggressively, just deliberately. You want to know what I want? I asked. She nodded. I want my name back. The version of me you stopped saying with respect. I want my time back. The years you spent checking out emotionally while I kept refilling a glass with holes in the bottom. She blinked, stunned. I want freedom. From the ghost of the woman I married. From the apology I never got. From the guilt I never deserved. She took a step back. And most of all, I finished, I want you to finally feel the weight of what you've done, without me having to carry it for you. She didn't cry. Not then. She just stood there, finally empty. The performance was over. The audience had left. And I was walking off stage. She stopped sending the I love you texts. Replaced them with schedule updates, work evenings, lunch with a friend, yoga class. She even started missing her own sticky note reminders. By midweek, the house felt too big for both of us. Her suitcase reappeared on the guest room bed. No note, no announcement. Just presence. Her presence, everywhere. One night, I walked into the kitchen. She was there, chopping vegetables like she was rehearsing a dinner roll. I stood in the doorway. Without looking up, she said, "We need to talk." The words were neutral, but the silence that followed was charged. She put the knife down and faced me. I've been thinking, she began quietly. Maybe we rushed our statement to everyone about separating. I nodded slowly. Maybe. Maybe we should. Reassess? See a counselor? Don't let good memories go to waste. I stepped closer, eyes level with hers. Counseling is for people who want to listen. She swallowed. I want to listen. Maybe. I paused. But I think you're listening to something else. Your reflection. She shook her head. I made mistakes. I've been cataloging them for months, I said softly. We're past mistakes. Her hand trembled. She took it back. You're saying it's over. You really mean it. I said nothing. She exhaled. Okay. And that was it, the final straw. She tried to smooth the cracks one last time, like tossing pebbles into a canyon to fill it by hand. It wasn't enough. Nothing could bridge that silence anymore. On Friday morning, she packed the suitcase again, walked straight out of the guest room without a word. I heard the car engine start, and then silence. I sat at my desk, staring at the empty chair. For the first time, I let the emptiness speak. And it did. In memories, wedding day, shared laughter, midnight whispers, inside jokes that used to spark her smile. I closed my eyes. No phone buzzed. No note appeared. Just her absence. Real, present, permanent. I walked through the house one last time, her side of the closet, the drawers I kept clothes in, the half-empty bottle of shampoo on the counter. I picked up one of her sticky notes. Call Mom. I didn't rip it. I folded it carefully, left it on the counter. Then I shut the door behind me and walked away. I know what you're picturing. Broken glass, fiery tirades, blood-red curtains. But this, my revenge, was quieter. Deeper. More permanent. Not violence in the classic sense. No fists, no shouts. The only thing I broke was a system she trusted. I weaponized the truth she hid behind. I filed for official separation. Sent the paperwork to her mother's house, making sure she couldn't intercept it. Included full financial disclosures, legal claims, custody arrangements for the cat we both thought no one noticed. She got served. Through a registered letter. The reaction wasn't dramatic. It was procedural. Her name hit the envelope and she dropped a pin. That was all I needed. Later that week, when she tried to check our joint account, prompt blocked access. When she called the phone line, message, mailbox full. Every route she expected, every channel she relied on, you cut them off, and you watch the house of cards flutter to the ground. The best kind of revenge is erasure. Not of me, but of her control. She's not sleeping peacefully. She's not laughing with her phone. She's rebooting, restarting, facing every missed payment, every red flag, every paper trail she left behind. And now I get to show up in court as the man who never raised his voice, but made the hard choices that speak much louder than any scream. So yes, I took revenge. But it wasn't violent. It was inevitable. I folded my socks one last time. Hung them in my new apartment. Bought new ones. You fold the past so neatly it fits in a box. Close the lid. Send a receipt. I slept well that night.